Do you feel proud of your community?
I'm very proud of my community. Everywhere I go, Armenians, y'all run this, like in the hip hop
Really?
world where I go.
I mean, I know you're a pharmacist,
Yeah,
but there's like
yeah.
a certain,
Big Pharma.
like there's so much corruption and there's
Yeah,
just
it's horrible.
so much going on.
Everybody goes through their struggles,
Yes.
But in the big scope of things, I think a lot of us Armenians come from a good amount of struggle.
So I always want to dig and
We're
see
about to
if
go
there's-
into therapy mode now.
If there's anything there that,
I feel very lonely. No, I'm kidding.
I'm sure you're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's up and down for everyone. I think, recently it was just a year that one of our friends passed away very young. The loss of people is always extremely sad.
What's interesting is that you're married,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not shown a lot on your IG page or in your personal life too. And I don't know if it sounds like not a lot of people know that about you.
That's true. I'm not surprised, but I didn't know, for example, that you know that. Yeah.
Yes.
I just really recently started, I guess, saying it. It's not that I hid it, but
But that's what people think, They're like, why isn't he? What's going on here? Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on the second episode. Today's guest was Armin. He is a wonderful rapper. He's rapped with so many rappers like Nas and French Montana, and of course, many more. We talked a lot about his education in pharmacy. He's actually a pharmacist. We talked about his marriage, in which not a lot of people know that he's married and has been for over 5 years. We talked a lot about the changes in the community, the music world, and overall what it is to be a powerful person, because he did share some personal experiences that have impacted his life while he was growing up. And it was really interesting to see how he used resilience to overcome those difficulties. So stay tuned for the second episode with Armin. Armin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm honored that you're my guest today. I have been following your work forever, and I'm just so proud, and it is my honor to be in your presence.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Honor is mine.
Thank you. How are you feeling?
Good. Feeling great. Excited. A lot of plans for this year. So we already up and running. You know what I mean?
I do. What are your plans?
Man, I have a lot going on, but I had a big year last year with a big album that I released. So we really working on the follow-ups. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just one album. It's more like just a collection of music, and I'm trying to like just consistently release this year. And then outside of music, I have, different businesses and different things I'm doing. So yeah, I'm staying busy.
Armin, how does it feel to be on stage? I'm so curious.
Well, random switch up. Stage is, if that's what your passion is, it's like the best feeling. You know what I mean? I feel at home on stage. I love performing, and I'm comfortable. You know what I mean?
What about interviews? Is it the same?
I'm pretty comfortable in interviews now too, but it's very different. I feel like I'm naturally introverted. So I'm not like the talker, public speaking, things like that. I was never good at. But then on stage, it's like people say that all the time to me, like, oh, you don't like to like give a speech or something, but how do you do it on stage? I'm like, it's totally two different things. You know what I mean? On stage, you're in a different zone. It's more about the music, even though you conversate with people. You're entertaining them, but like speaking is different. But, it's all part of the game, and I love it all. So
how did you get into rapping? I'm so curious.
It just starts as a hobby and as a passion, I feel like, for everyone, like for as long as I can remember, I was just deeply into music, any type of music, probably like 5, 6 years old. And then slowly I started gravitating towards, rap music, not really understanding it or whatever, but that's what I was really into. And then, once my teenage years happened, but never really thought about like being part of it myself though, I am at the end of the day, one of the first or maybe the first like from our community to do this. So you got to understand this was an era where hip hop wasn't as universal as it is now. There was no one in the mainstream that like look like me, you know. Now let's say there's a French Montana or a DJ Khaled or, you know, different people like that, but that wasn't the case. You know, there was Eminem, who's white, but we also kind of like, we technically white, but white people don't really think we white, so it's like I was confused, you know. So it never really crossed my mind. I'm not from that culture. We from a whole different culture. But you know, one day I was crazy enough to, I guess, just start writing a rhyme to like a famous instrumental. And I wasn't even telling nobody. I was just doing it for myself. And then, you know, slowly I started getting into it and recording myself and playing it for people. And I started getting like good reactions and building a little bit of confidence, you know what I mean? And this is like high school years. So, and I grew up in the Netherlands. I was born in Glendale, but I grew up in the Netherlands first 18 years of my life. And then when I turned 18, I moved here. At that point, I was like, I really came here and I was going to go to college, but in the back of my mind, I was really coming here for music, you know? So, you know, I met a guy by the name of Blind. His real name was Carlos, but he was Armenian and he was making beats. But, you know, he was from the whole gangbanging era of the 90s. He was like almost a decade older than me too. So he had gotten shot and lost his eyesight. And then he started making music. So long story short, I meet him through like a family friend. He was like a beginning producer. I was like a beginning rapper. And we were both crazy enough to, you know, do this. And we started doing it. And the first project I released, kind of not instantly, but pretty quick, I became known in at least our community, you know, because it was like, it kind of hadn't been done, you know, and just been going ever since, you know what I mean?
Was it difficult, the transition, like from wanting to be educated to the rap industry?
Yeah, I think for me, that might have been one of the biggest challenges, is that pulling and tugging from like where we from and how I'm raised and how my mom is drilled into my head that, you know what I mean? Like I was programmed to think there's no, and not to her fault, but that's just the culture that we from. I feel like, you know, that, you know, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, this, that.
Right.
So I kind of didn't even know better. So even while I'm doing music, you know, I'm going to college. I went to UCLA. I graduated. I'm still doing music. I went all the way, and then I went to pharmacy school. It's a whole long story. But yeah, it's always been kind of like, you know, what are you doing? It's like your close people, your family, whatever it is, siblings, parents, close friends, no one would see it because it's never been done. You know what I mean? So you can't really blame them either. And then we're also not from that culture. So as far as like the industry and the hip hop culture, there was another barrier. So yeah, it wasn't easy, obviously, but you know, when you're just so passionate about something, you just do it regardless. If it's successful, it's not successful, you're getting paid for it, you're not getting paid for it, it doesn't really matter. You're doing it anyway. So yeah, I would just keep doing it, keep making music, and you know, doors started slowly opening. People started slowly seeing certain things and accepting, you know what I mean?
I love that.
And but yeah, that's what we are now.
You know what's interesting, that when I talk to people that have had difficulty, and that is difficulty. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's not easy. I wonder if you grew up having resentment towards family, because you talk about like this pull that, you know, like mom's drilling like this culture in your mind, but then you're like, that's not where I belong.
Right.
I belong somewhere else.
Totally.
Do you feel like you have resentment towards family members?
No, I wouldn't say resentment. I feel like once you realize what the intention is, right? Like, I'm not a parent. I have nephews and nieces. I always tell like my brother or whatever, like, if your kid wanted to do music or like it's not easy, because I understand that the chances of being successful is very little. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially when there's no real guidance or anyone that has ever done it before around, a family friend or somebody. You know what I mean? So they mean it well. You know, they want, you know. So I can't have resentment, is what I'm trying to say. But would it be different if your parents are fully supporting? Yes. It's like the biggest difference.
What difference?
It's like I remember watching, maybe you've seen it, Kanye had this interview on Netflix last year or 2 years ago, Genius. Mm-hmm. And it was this one scene specifically, I was a lot of scenes with his mom, but there was this one scene specifically where his mom was like rapping his lyrics to him. And I'm like, wow, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously my mom can't rap my lyrics to me, but it's like so far-fetched for my mom to even like listen to a song, you know what I mean? Or to even understand what I'm doing or saying or what the songs. So it's just such a difference in culture that you start to, and it's the same thing with like athletes or anything like that, you know? If you don't have that support, then you just kind of go into the system. You go to college, you go get a job, you know what I mean? People say, oh, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer. It is very impressive. But to me, it's like, it's really not that difficult. You know what I'm saying? Like college, I'm not saying it's easy. Have a little bit of discipline, 4 years, another 4 years, you have a doctorate degree, you'll make okay money, you'll have an average life.
You
if that's what you want to do.
Touched on such a sensitive topic because, you know, as a family therapist, I look at the family system and I'm noticing like there's such a lack of discipline in families. Like you talk about, it's not hard. You have to have discipline. But I wonder, like, what do you feel? Do you see the changes now in young men versus before? What's your opinion about that?
I just feel the world is evolving, and I'm sure you see that a lot in our community.
Yes.
But I feel like our community is big time evolving. You know, times have just changed, basically. It's the information age. So there's, you know, if I was a starting artist now, it already would be different because I would know so much more because of just scrolling on Instagram or YouTube, whatever. Like
too much information.
You know, people just understand quicker certain things. And, you know, the same thing with our community. You know what I mean? No, you know, we're not as closed-minded no more. And yeah, I guess that answers the question kind of.
What do you think about the parenting style in our community? As somebody who's, you know, an artist and you wanted to follow your dreams, but you didn't have the proper support. Do you feel like you see a lot of that now? Like the lack of support from...
Yeah, well, I feel like it's better now. You know what I mean? And I love a lot of things about our culture. You know what I mean? Like the integrity you have, the family values, all that. I'm very much for that. But I truly believe in like not taking the safe route. Like, you know, if you want to be something extraordinary, you're going to have to do something that's not ordinary. You know what I mean? So if everyone's going to college and then becoming, or everyone's, you know, doing a certain, whatever, taking over the parents' business, whatever, like, it's cool, it's great, you know what I mean? If that makes you happy, because not everyone has this kind of passion. And that's the other difference. Like, it's actually very few people, I would say, that have it to this extreme where they're willing to just do it regardless of anything, you know what I mean?
Is that you?
I definitely feel it's me. But yeah, it's not everybody.
Do you?
And maybe it's not, sorry to cut you off, it's not hard, it's not easy to differentiate as a parent, you know what I mean? Is this a phase? Is this, you know what I mean? But at some point, you know, I would like to think if and when I'll be a parent that I'll be supportive, but you know, we'll see.
Absolutely. I love that. Do you feel proud of your community?
I'm very proud of my community. Everywhere I go, oh, Armenians, y'all run this, you know, like in the hip hop world where I go soon, you know, they know me as the Armenian rapper, the hip hop industry. So everywhere I go, oh, y'all run the car industry, y'all run the cannabis industry, y'all run every industry, you know what I'm saying? Especially in LA.
But that's the truth.
It's the truth. It's definitely the truth. So yeah, I'm very proud to see how far we've come. And also when I compare to like when I started, and there's a lot of successful Armenians in big places, in high positions, in different industries. You know what I mean? And
True.
And I wouldn't be here without my community for sure. Like the support I've gotten, it's usually been, or the opportunities I've gotten and doors that have been open, a lot of times it's been an Armenian in a high position saying, yo, like you were too good, you know, like let me introduce you to this person or that or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm very proud for sure.
I love that. Absolutely. I have to agree with you. Did you ever experience any form of like difficulty? Because you rap with a lot of other cultural like rappers.
Right.
You have, you know, different backgrounds, different religions. Did you ever experience any like, oh, you're
Just
Armenian, like racism, I would say, like anything that
that, yeah, for sure.
How did that sit on you?
Well, it's kind of weird because I had this like duality of like, I had to convince Armenians that I could do this, and then I had to convince the non-Armenians. Like it was like everyone was like, yo, what is this guy doing?
A lot of pressure, right?
You know what I mean? It was kind of like, you know, it's really out of the ordinary, but at the end of the day, they are right, meaning the hip hop community, it's a street urban culture from ghetto America, and I wasn't raised in ghetto America. Whether I'm black or not, that's a whole nother thing. But black, Latino, you know what I mean? We're not
I
from that.
do.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely. There's
and
a
I
difference.
recognize that, and I accept it, and I'm not trying to be, you know. But at one point, hip hop was just that, but it grew so big. It's the biggest genre of music, and I would say the biggest culture, period. Like it has affected everything, the way we speak, the way we dress, all the way down to like H&M or something. It's hip hop influence, the way kids talk to each other. I see my nieces and nephews is very hip hop, the slang, you know what I mean? So it's just a very influential culture. So at this point, it's like, you know, a lot of different races do it and everyone does it, but in their own way. So hip hop was originally always the story of the people of the streets of ghetto America. But I feel like if you can just make it your own, so I talk about my story, my struggle, my people, instead of trying to be, you know, something I'm not. So yeah, so I feel like traditional hip hop was always about, you know, the term keeping it real, being true to yourself. So to the fullest, I'm like, just be true to you. You know what I mean? And then you get accepted everywhere.
Absolutely. I love how a lot of your music, you talk about your life. You incorporate a lot of your personal experiences in your writings. That takes guts to do that.
Right. Yeah, you know, the hip hop I grew up on, my favorite artists, they were very open about. So I guess, you know, it's just a form of self-expression. It probably comes back to like me being introverted naturally, but then I'll speak on it in music, but not in regular conversation. You know what I mean?
Is it easier to speak on it in
For
music?
me, for sure. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and the hip hop that I love and grew up on and always wanted to represent was that of like substance and a message and inspirational, basically. So that's always what I strive to make. You know what I'm saying?
Do you feel like you've had somewhat of a difficult life?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's different levels of difficulty. Everybody goes through their struggles, you know?
Yes.
But in the big scope of things, yeah, I think a lot of us Armenians come from a good amount of struggle. You know what I mean?
What were some of your struggles that you were comfortable writing about?
I mean, first of all, my dad passed away when I was only one, so my, you know, single mother. She never remarried. It was me and my brother. Growing up in a country where, you know, long story short, my parents from Iran, and you know when they fled for the revolution in, I want to say, the 70s. You know, my mom's side all came to LA. My dad's side all went to the Netherlands. So that's kind of how I was born here. I was raised over there. You know, but then, you know, I was born here really just for like citizenship purposes. You know what I'm saying? Because my parents didn't live here. You know, so we lived there. But then my pops died when I was only one. So I was one and my brother was three. But my mom decided to stay over there. So, and Europe, if you know anything about Europe, growing up there, they call us foreigners, you know what I mean? So over there, I would say what they consider the lower class is like basically people that look like you and me, you know what I mean? So, you know, that's a whole nother struggle, just being a minority, I guess, in that country, but then also not belonging there, but then also not kind of belonging anywhere, you know what I mean? So, and then, you know, just regular life from there, I would say.
Did you see your mom struggle or witness your mom struggle as
Um,
raising two children on her own?
yeah, I mean, I think she did a really good job.
She
You know what I'm
did.
saying? She kind of dedicated her life to her kids, whether that's good or bad, you know, but it was good for us. And she instilled a lot of values and a lot of, you know, a lot of morals in us. And yeah, she definitely did a lot. You know, did she struggle? She did. She probably hid it from us, or we were too young.
How?
You know, we were literally like babies. So, but yeah.
If your dad was in your life, what would it have changed? What would be
I would have
different?
probably grew up like a rich kid, to be honest. Like my dad
Really?
passed away in his 30s and he was already on his way to doing a lot of big things. He had a PhD in chemistry, but he had also started this business with his brother,
That's where you get
like
your
Persian
brains
rugs
from.
and stuff.
There
Right?
you go.
Yeah. He was doing all kinds of stuff, but you know, his life was just cut short. So, but he was on his way for sure. So I think everything would have been different.
Is that why you got into pharmacy school? And
Now, I probably did pharmacy because my mom kept telling me you got to do something with your life. But I was just making music. But also, so my brother's a little older than me, and he always wanted to be a doctor. So we kind of going to college together, him a little ahead of me, you know what I mean? Then he went off to medical school, and I'm still just doing music. I graduated my bachelor's, but, I was trying to do music. I'm working at like a restaurant, and every day I'm hearing my mom here, my uncle here, you know what I mean? And my brother here. So eventually, I went all the way as far as taking the MCAT to go to medical school.
wow.
And I had interviews, and I was just sitting there saying, but I don't want to be a doctor, And how can you be a doctor in charge of people's health when that's not really your passion? I feel like that's just not a right thing to do, you know what I mean? So I'm like, what's the next best thing? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be a dentist. And I was always interested. First of all, I was always really good in school. So it wasn't like a very difficult task or anything. I felt like, yeah, I could do it. I could manage it.
Naturally.
And if I had to pick school-wise, I was always into sciences, and so it would kind of be in the medical field. So I'm like, let me try pharmacy, And I went to pharmacy school all while I was doing music and graduated. And then I started working as a pharmacist. But after like a year or two, I was like, yo, I really can't, you can't, do something halfway and think you're going to be successful at it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let that go. I already now have the license, something I can always do. Let me just fully focus on music. And really, that's when I started seeing real results. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When I started putting my everything into it. And then now, I do own 2 pharmacies in the Tarzana area.
That's amazing.
And it's kind of happened as like my side thing. I met an amazing partner who's been in that world for a while. And, so it kind of became like a business on the side. So I can't complain, It worked out.
Right. You could just be grateful. I agree.
Definitely.
What do you feel about I don't know. I don't want to. Are you for medication? Or, I mean, I know you're a pharmacist, but there's a certain.
Big Pharma.
Like there's so much corruption and there's just.
It's horrible.
So much going on.
The American medical system is crazy.
It's
the pharmacy
horrible.
system is crazy.
Yeah. So what do you feel about that?
I try to avoid medication as much as I can. And I tell everybody that, including my patients, you know what I mean? But but also medicine has helped us prolong life significantly. And there's a lot of great things that medicine can do. So, it's always a give and take, but as far as like what it really comes down to, what I would do as a pharmacist it's actually very helpful to people,
How would you run things differently if you had it under your control fully?
It's all just so money driven. I also grew up in Europe where it was very different.
It's Eastern medicine. It is very different.
And where we never see an advertisement for a medication that you can't even buy on TV. And that's where you start thinking like, yo, that's really wild that there's advertisements for a medication. You know what I mean? And then you realize it's only in America and I believe one other country in the world, New Zealand or something, correct me if I'm wrong. And that's where you see like, yeah, it's just, I kind of know how it works behind the scenes with the patents of the brand names and the generic and how they price it and why is the same $1,000 medication $10 up in Canada or in Mexico. Like it's the same thing. So that's when you see like it's just a whole crazy
Are
industry.
we taking advantage of people here?
Of course, but that's not only the pharmaceutical industry.
No.
It's probably like just America.
It's overall
Capitalism.
If you were to, yes.
And I love America, and I actually
Of
love
course.
capitalism too, but I guess there's a balance.
There is.
Yeah.
We need that, absolutely. If there was one place you would live, where would it be?
Right here, baby.
Right here?
LA for sure. I love LA.
What do you love about LA?
I don't know. I just feel home at in LA. And
There's just so much going on though here.
there's a lot
It's a
going on.
mess.
It's a mess, but I've definitely had the opportunity to travel a good amount of places, whether it was on tour or and man, every time I come back, I'm like, finally, I'm back in LA. It's just different here, because I love America. First of all, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, and then in America, I pick LA over anywhere else, for now.
Yeah. So your song is the intro of Patrick Bet-David's podcast. How did
Yes.
that happen? That's amazing.
Shout out to PBD.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's actually a really crazy story because he's like really known, and he kind of
Yes.
really blew up to a whole nother level the last couple of years, but he's been blown up. I found out about him, I want to say around like 2017, 2018. One of my friends that actually went to school with him, I mean, Patrick was a couple years older, but they both went to Glendale High at the same time. And he was like, yo, check out, you know, my man, yeah, I went to school with this guy. He has this dope like channel with all this business advice and stuff like that. So we were just watching, and I started following him on Instagram. And then one day out of nowhere, he did a post about like his favorite rappers. And he's like, you know, my top 5 favorite rappers of all time are like Tupac, Nas, Eminem, you know, like the usual kind of list. And then in the caption, he's like, but also check out my man Armin, and he tagged me. He's like, you know, he's really dope, and he has this song with The Game called Los Angeles, that's fire, whatever. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know he knows me, you know what I'm saying? So from there, the conversation started, and then when he came to LA one time, he came by my store in Glendale, the Pentagon, just for like a quick 10-minute meetup. And he let me know that he really loves my music, and he's a fan, and he's like, yo, we're here to support. And then I went on tour, and this is right before COVID, 2019. And at that time, he was based out of Dallas. So now he's in Florida. And when we were there, you know, he gave us, you know, we went met with him. He had the Valuetainment Studios and the insurance agency that he had.
Right.
So, you know, they gave us a whole tour, him and his team. And that's when he mentioned, he's like, you know, if you have like a song that might match the channel, so this is before the podcast. He's like, you know, maybe we can use it for the channel. So I created this song with that in mind called Sweet Victory. And when we played it for him, you know, he loved it. So then they started using it for the interviews he would do on his channel. You know, he had a lot of big interviews like the Kobe one and stuff like that.
Yes.
I just missed the Kobe one. But I'm on a lot of the other, you know, interviews, you know, as my song as the intro. So that was really cool. And that was pretty much that, you know. And then a couple years ago, he started this podcast. And then they just decided to use it for the podcast, you know, the same song.
Amazing.
And the podcast really took off. And I'm a big fan of the podcast. Like I watch it almost every day, like at least clips of it. So yeah, it's kind of cool to be part of that.
I mean, I don't have a song for my podcast.
Yeah. See, now it's different because I'm on the PBD podcast already. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk later. Let's see.
I don't have a
can't be the
song.
podcast. What's it called? Theme song guy. But
Why?
maybe I can't.
Why? It would be my honor.
Okay. Well, we'll think about it.
Okay, fine. So overall, you're working as a pharmacist. You have 2 pharmacies.
Mm-hmm.
You have your store.
Yeah, depending on LA, which is clothing like what I'm wearing right now. And we recently brought in sneakers. So we have, you know, the whole sneaker collection, you know, Yeezys, Jordans, things like that. Yeah.
How did the idea come up for the store?
That was kind of a natural, you know, as an independent artist, there's only certain ways you can make money, really. And that's how it's, you know, you start doing merch. You know, people don't really buy music no more and things like that years ago. So, you know, we just started doing merch and it was doing pretty okay. And then, of course, I did the Armenian Genocide song, Open Wounds, and then we did the T-shirts with that. And that just made all my merch get way more popular besides the Open Wounds. Because the Open Wounds thing became its own thing, kind of took a life of its own, you know? So then first we just had an office and we were working, you know, out of everything online. And then we got one of those kiosks at the Americana in Glendale. And we just did that for like 3 months. And then we kind of graduated to having an actual storefront, you know? But the store is more of like our headquarters. Like it's really our office or studios in there. We have like a content creation room and we have the store. So it's really not just the store, you know what I'm saying? It's really, instead of having an office somewhere and a studio somewhere else and this and that, we just have like a headquarters.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
See, you have a business mindset.
I kind of. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
You kind of have to, you know what I mean, to survive in really any business.
In LA?
Because, yeah, in LA for sure. Because I was really just the type of artist that's just an artist at first. And I wanted to just do music, but then I quickly realized that's not how life works. So
Since we're on that topic, how do you come up with your lyrics? Like, is it easy? Is it quick?
Sometimes it's easy and then sometimes it's not. But that's just, at this point, that's what I do, you know? Like my brain is kind of structured in a way that everything I do from the simplest thing in life, everything I go through every day, kind of like automatically I think, can this be a song? Can this be a lyric? Can this be a rhyme? You know what I mean? So yeah, and then, you know, as throughout the day, I would jot down ideas every day pretty much for the last 10 to 20 years. And so, you know, so that's just, yeah, that's what we do.
Is it natural? Does it happen naturally?
I would say it's definitely natural, yeah.
I wonder, when you're sitting down and you're writing music, do you usually sit down and think about like things that have happened, things that you want to happen, and that's how it just,
Yeah,
or it just comes up?
It really just depends on, really the music dictates the lyrics, you know what I mean, for the most part. I've definitely had songs where I came up with lyrics or a concept first, and I would hit up like a producer, like, let's make a beat for this. But for the most part, it's like I listen to the beat and it's like, yo, this song should be about this or that, or you know what I mean? So the music is a feeling more than everything, right? It's an emotion. It's something very spiritual because it doesn't exist, and then you create it, and then, you know what I mean? It's like there. So it's really just how it makes you feel. And that's what dictates what it would be about, you know?
What does it make you feel like?
I mean, it just depends.
Let's say
It
like
can
you're,
make you very happy or very sad or anything in between. I try to keep it inspirational, you know? I try to,
your songs.
I would say my main, as an artist, like what I'm about is like, keep going, you know? That's kind of like my main, like the inspirational message. You know, I always, like I said earlier, I was into artists that, you know, have a message in their music, have a substance. I think music is extremely powerful. Growing up without a father, I feel like I learned a lot of things that you would usually learn from like whoever the father figure is in your life, from like hip hop, you know, if that makes any sense. So I think it's very powerful, and the way people react, you know, the messages I get and stuff like that, you realize like, oh, it's really impacting some people, you know.
Who was that for you? That father figure, I wonder.
Yeah, not really one person. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's more like, yeah, different things I consume, but music was a big part of that, you know? Not that I didn't have like uncles and things like that to step in. I definitely did. But yeah, music had a lot to do with it for me.
I mean, what did your father pass away from?
So he had kidney issues from a young age. So eventually he had to get a kidney transplant. It's actually a pretty crazy story because so he had to get a kidney transplant. So, you know, they decided to go through with it. The transplant went fine. This is the story, obviously, that I was told. But so he was still in the hospital, just recovering from the surgery. I believe he had to stay there for like 2 weeks. About 10 days had already passed, and he's fine. And then the medication they give him for, you know, to help with the rejection of the new kidney, they miscalculated or something, either the nurse or the doctor, and they gave him like 10 times more than they supposed to. And now as a pharmacist, I know a lot of those medications, the main side effect is that the blood pressure goes up. So because they gave him an extremely high dose, the blood pressure shot up, and he died of a stroke. So it was literally like a medical mistake.
In your songs, you talk about that, but you say that they killed him.
Yeah.
Is that what you
listen? You really listened, because I said that in one specific song in like 2015 called "Sick World," which is actually about the whole medical, how sick it is. If that makes sense.
I studied.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me.
That.
It's of course it's an honor. Like it's what you need to do.
Thank
it's
you.
You need to respect your guest at that level. But it's hard for me to catch up because you're so talented and you wonderfully rap, and it's so fast. So I literally had to like go back a few times, and I'm like, oh my God, this is serious. This is worth talking about.
I mean, it was one of those songs that I let it all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how I felt at the moment. But yeah, technically, you know, that's literally what happened. And I guess if it was in the United States, because again, this was in the Netherlands, it would be like this big lawsuit. But over there's no such thing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's why in the song, I'm like, the doctor was just like, sorry. You know what I mean? Like, move on.
Just like that. That's hard.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to judge the guy. I don't know what happened, but that's how you would think, you know, especially as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, I was, we follow each other on IG, but you had posted something that was so interesting to me, and I replied to your post. You said, I don't remember it verbatim, but you said, on the path, on the way to success, you lose a lot of people in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember? I can't remember
said,
verbatim.
Following your dreams would be your loneliest pursuit.
Yes.
Like that's actually a lyric from a song I recently did for someone else's project. There's this producer called DJ Hoppa, and I did a song, yeah, called The Loneliest Pursuit.
Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, for sure.
How?
This is not just for being an artist. It's really just any dream you have, any entrepreneurial, you know what I mean? Like most people will not understand it in the beginning. That's really what I'm saying. Like you kind of got to be a little bit delusional, a little bit, like believe something that's kind of unbelievable, but to you, it can really happen. And along the way, because, I've had so many, everyone I started doing music with, besides my right-hand man, Alex Cotto, and, Tina just joined a few years later. But besides him, anyone I started doing music with is not with me no more. Not because they don't want to be, work with me, but because life gets in the way. They stop believing, and, so you lose a lot of people. Then other people come in thinking, oh, you about to blow up. Let me be part of this. And then they realize, oh, it's not that easy. It takes way longer. It takes more work. And then they fall off again and people keep coming and go. You know what I mean? So, but that's just part of the entrepreneurial journey, I would say, and music is no different. So, but yeah, anything different you want to do can get lonely,
Sometimes I feel like wisdom has a lot to do with it. It's not only them not catching up or not understanding. I feel like people naturally, it's there's a German word for it. It's called Schadenfreude. I don't know if you've ever heard
You
of
live
it.
in Germany?
No,
Oh, you just know
but I
this
studied
German word.
psychology, so that
honestly.
means other people's misfortunes taste like honey.
Mm,
And so when you are following your dreams and people actually see you getting somewhere and they see success, they naturally want that.
right.
And so a lot of people not only fall behind because they're not understanding you, but that's their Schadenfreude. It's that jealousy
Yeah.
that comes out, and sometimes it just blinds them.
I totally believe that. There's definitely jealousy and envy, but then there's also just, maybe my journey didn't fit into their life. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't just start doing this a couple years ago. So I've had a journey, and I understand, life gets in the way, like my goal used to be this other person's goal also, but his goal kind of changed, and I'm still going like this, you know what I mean?
Different vibrations, different levels. Have you ever encountered like severe, well, I know that you've had difficult life in the passing of your dad when you were younger, but recently have you experienced any sadnesses in your life? I know there's always great things, but I'm a family therapist. I always want to dig and
We're
see
about to
if
go
there's-
into therapy mode now.
If there's anything there that,
I feel very lonely. No, I'm kidding.
I'm sure you're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's up and down for everyone. I think, recently it was just a year that one of our friends passed away very young. The loss of people is always extremely sad.
It is.
I guess that's the main thing that comes to mind from like recently very sad things. But, the struggle of every day, we all have it, ups and downs. But I've definitely learned, that your mind kind of controls your life. And so I have a very optimistic outlook, even when things are really not that optimistic. You know what I'm saying? I'm the type of person that's like, oh, no, we'll get through this too. I kind of talk to myself a lot.
Yes.
And sometimes I have to say, okay, chill. Like, it'll be cool. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
So yeah.
What's interesting is that you're married, but it's not shown a lot on your IG page or in your personal life too. And I don't know if it sounds like not a lot of people know that about you.
That's true. I'm not surprised, but I didn't know, for example, that you know that. Yeah.
Yes.
I just really recently started, I guess, saying it. It's not that I hid it, but
But that's what people think, They're like, why isn't he? What's going on here? His wife is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. Because people think, IG is supposed to be your whole life. And to a certain degree, I guess it should be. So everyone, as soon as they have a girlfriend, whatever, they post each other. And then when they break up, they don't post it again. And like, you know what I mean? And like, that's all cool. Maybe I'm still a little old school, we grew up before social media. So I don't need to post everything.
I respect that. I think people should
and
too.
At first I was definitely we both decided that like, yeah, I'm also not trying to be that corny guy to keep posting, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not that person, to be honest. But, you know, I've slowly started doing it a little bit more and talking about it because
Hmm.
I'm definitely, I never had the intention of hiding it. I just didn't promote it, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean?
What kind of a husband are you?
Oh God, you gotta ask her. No, I think I don't know how to even answer that question. That's definitely the
But
first
you're
time.
red.
Am I? That's definitely the first time anyone has asked me that. I think I do pretty good, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
What are your qualities? Like, I mean, are you a good listener? Are you the support? Like,
Interesting.
yeah, like take your
I
time.
think I'm definitely supportive. You know, in whatever she wants to do. Because she always kind of was put in a position to have no other choice but to support me because of what I do. And then as I became more of an adult and understood, because we've been together like a very long time,
How long?
since like the Netherlands, since high school, and
Oh
then
my
I
God. So
moved
you're like
here.
sweethearts, kind of like
Yeah, and
high
then I
school.
broke. You know, we were apart for like many years, almost a decade, and then you know, so it's like we know each other, and so, you know, she chose to be with like an artist, which is not easy.
Mm-mm.
But then, you know, so I try to, you know, be supportive of everything she wants to do.
I love how you have
Um,
so much empathy for her, though. Like you understand her struggles too.
yeah,
Do you guys talk about that in your marriage?
I don't think we really talk about it, but you know, I just know that that couldn't be easy, you know.
How do you
I'd
know,
be
though?
gone a lot. I'd be out
Yeah.
nights a lot in the studio or whatever. It takes a lot of trust, you know.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I
What
think I do okay.
What do you think makes a successful marriage?
Accepting each other for who you are instead of trying to change someone the way you want them to be. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, and then you know a lot of respect, trust, and love, of course.
Absolutely. Are you thinking about like fatherhood eventually?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that in the plans?
It should. Yeah.
W- So, as somebody, I know you're not a father, but you're planning on to be, which is amazing. Thank
Hmm.
you for that, because we need good parents, we need good children.
Yeah.
What do you feel about everything that's going on? I mean, Patrick was involved too in the whole LGBTQ
It's insane.
movement. I
Yeah, I
know, like,
remember Patrick called me, or not Patrick, but Mario, that's like his right hand man, called me saying he wanted to come to like Glendale.
correct,
I don't know
correct.
what happened exactly, but he's like, "Yo, would you be down to perform?" I'm like, "Of course." And then it never happened. But yeah, I think it's wild what the world is turned into. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely.
And I kind of, you know, I have nieces and nephews and stuff, and I like to say I'm very involved, and you know, and they're just like 12, 13. They're becoming teenagers, and you know, social media, and it's like we just kind of don't know how that affects anyone because you know what I'm saying.
Hmm.
But yeah, you know, we're gonna have to take on that challenge and do our best. I guess you know that's
I
all we could do.
agree. What kind of father do you think you'll be or want to be? I think every man has that image in their mind or thinks about the type of dad that they're going to be.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I've thought about it like that, but I mean, very supportive,
Of course.
very what's it called? Like I'll be there. You know what I mean?
Are you
For
more of
everything.
like, well, yeah,
I played basketball my whole childhood. I never had a sibling, a parent, or uncle, anyone there, and I just kind of realized because I go to my nephew's basketball games all the time.
did you just realize that now?
Like
Or you realize,
recent
of,
years, I realized
yeah,
because I've been going for someone that's not even my kid, and always I see parents. I never really see uncles, and they always say, you know what I mean? Oh, the uncle's here. And then I realized one day, I'm like, you know, when I was his age, I was doing the same exact thing. I never had anyone like here, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know if that affected me, but now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, I think that's important.
I think that changes your perspective on life and absolutely does
Mm-hmm.
have an effect on you,
Mm-hmm.
but that changes you and that also makes you be a better parent.
Mm,
But there's always two
definitely.
sides, right? There's a movie, I think, and there is the villain in the movie and there's the hero. And both of them don't have that different of a life.
Right.
It's very similar, but you choose the type of person you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, you choose what your priorities are in life at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So we all have the same 24 hours, and how we want to, you know, manage that time is up to you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what are some of your characteristics, like people that don't really know about? Like we know that you rap and you're phenomenal in it. And we know that you're a doctor and you're wonderful in it. But what other aspects to your personality do you have?
I think I'm a relentless, like, not the type of person to give up on anything I do.
You've got grit.
Grit for sure.
I love that.
I have no problem, grinding it out, as we say. Like, you know what I mean? If I have to be uncomfortable for something, that's not a problem. I always have goals. I'm very goal oriented. I always dreamed really big, and I continue to. And then, I think most people that know me, the first word they say is like, "you humble," and I don't even like that word, but that's what they
Why?
call me. I feel like humbleness is cool to a certain degree, but also it kind of allows people to think they can walk all over you or take advantage,
I
or
agree.
you know what I mean? So
do.
I feel like I know when people say it, they mean it as a positive thing, but I'm not a fan of that word. But yeah, I'm pretty comfortable in my skin at at this stage in my life. So there's not a lot you can do to bother me, upset me. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really make negative comments or anything. Like, it doesn't really bother me because I'm pretty sure of like what I'm doing, and yeah.
Right. What plans do you have for yourself? What are we expecting to see from you?
I mean, you just named a lot. We just talked about a lot. I think, family, different businesses.
Is that your priority right now?
Music will always go on. I feel like, I just want to level up. Like, the next decade got to be, we here right now. We doing good.
Yes.
So in every aspect of life,
What do you need to be that level? Like,
there's no like one thing. What I mean is just like, always move forward, move up another level in every aspect of your life. So, better relationships, better close, good friendships, make time, and, business wise and career wise. And of course, music is always my number one thing, but that's just something I keep slowly climbing. My career has been kind of like a marathon, like Nipsey Hussle would say. Like, it's been a slow and steady, like this. You know what I mean? I never had like a moment like that, but I also haven't gone down. Like,
Thank
you know what I mean?
God.
So yeah,
Would it be would it be easy to climb back up if you were?
I just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, the main thing in everything really, but in music, is like consistency. So yeah, I don't know how I would fall off. I guess if I would quit for a few years, then that would be considered, but if not, I'm only getting better. The music is only going to be the same or better, you know what I mean? And the output is going to be even more. So yeah.
What is like the dream? Where do you want to go up to? Like, what's your vision?
There's no destination.
Really?
No, that's what I learned too. The journey is like, this is it. It can always get better, but yeah, this is it. Like, I've done I work with some of the people that I idolized. The album I dropped specifically last year, it's almost like the dream album that I never thought would be possible. I've touched so many different stages and shows, from my own shows to big festivals to opening for bigger artists to, like, I've done a lot, and it's all been great, so everything could always be better, but
absolutely.
But yeah.
Well, I think this was such a beautiful conversation.
Definitely.
I appreciate you, honestly, and I'm so proud that we have humans like you in our society.
I really appreciate that.
And
Thank
it's
you.
going to be nothing but amazing moving forward. So,
I agree.
all right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Much love.